whenever you will be doing a research, mostly a thesis or any other research, you'll be at least these are the subheadings which you will be expected to put. So there will be a short introduction, then aims and objectives, review of literature, material methods, the results, discussion, conclusion, and then the references. So these are the components which are usually there. So in introduction, it is a very short, you don't need to write a lot, but in introduction, you just need to know that why are you doing this research. So in introduction, the purpose of your study is there, and what are the lacunae or what is expected, basically why you're doing the study, because something is not known about the subject or there are some lacunae about the subject. So in introduction, it is better if you put what is known, what is unknown, and out of this unknown things, what you are going to do. So aims and objectives is something in which you write what you're going to do, and how you're going to do is part of your methodology. So after your introduction, after methodology, then will come your results. Results are also quite straightforward. There's no confusion in that. But then comes the discussion, and discussion part is a little bit tricky because you don't know what to write, where should you put the information in introduction, should you put the information in review of literature or discussion. This is one of the most common confusions which is there. So let's just see what should come in discussion. So discussion informs the readers about the larger implications of the study. Now, why you're doing the study comes in introduction. Discussion is whatever findings are there, how will they help other people, or how will they help future research. So this is what is meant by implication of your study. And yes, again, highlighting the implications is challenging, is tricky again, because we don't want to overstate our results or overstate our findings, especially if you're submitting to a journal which selects articles based on novelty or potential impact, or you're presenting it in a conference. So just be sure that you're not overstating the findings, just important implications should be covered. So, for a proper successful discussion, these are the three main things which should be covered: the results, then a discussion of the results, and then a comparison between the results, initial hypothesis, and also the previous literature, what other people have, if they have done similar research, what have they found. So it is better that you ask a few questions to yourself, because by the time you come to results, I can understand that you all will feel very stressed and very out of energy that I have done with my thesis. But see, you should ask first, was my hypothesis correct? So, if your initial hypothesis was that alcohol leads to liver problems or the metabolic problems in schizophrenia, so go back to your initial hypothesis. What was the hypothesis? Was it correct? It's not necessary that the findings will always be positive or whatever you have hypothesized will be correct. So, let's start with checking your hypothesis. Then if my hypothesis was partially correct or entirely different, then what can be learned from the results? So don't be disheartened. You can still use this data or still use your findings. And also, how do the conclusions reshape or add to the existing knowledge in the field? So in this, previous researches will come. I'll be giving you an example so that you can understand it better, but just remember the questions. So then we'll compare it to the previous researches. Then why are the results important? Do they add further evidence to the scientific consensus, or do they disprove the prior studies? And how can future research build on these observations? What are the key experimentations that must be done? Because again, in your thesis, or even if you're doing a study or research, there are time constraints, there are budget constraints. So you can always tell what can be done for future. So from these findings, what other people can do, or what other future experimenters can do. And lastly, what is the take home message that you want the readers to leave with? So this is the structure of the discussion. First paragraph, we provide the essential interpretation based on the key findings or the results. Include main pieces of the supporting evidence. Second paragraph is usually comparing with previous studies. So highlighting the strengths and limitations of the study, especially when you look at other studies, you'll get to know what are the strengths and weaknesses of your own. And discuss the unexpected findings also. And last paragraph, just summarize the hypothesis and the purpose of the study, highlight the significance, discuss the unanswered questions, and give potential future research what can be done from these findings. So some do's and don'ts. First, it is better that you read the guidelines on discussion and conclusion section. So there are some rules and regulations, especially if you want to again submit it for publication, or like every college, every university has different rules and regulations. So go through those. What are the guidelines? Learn about the guidelines before writing the discussion to ensure that you're meeting expectations. Otherwise, you'll lose a lot of time doing that. Begin with a clear statement of the principal findings. This will reinforce the main takeaway for the reader and set up rest of the discussion. So this is what will make it interesting. Explain why the outcomes of your study are important. Discuss the implications again based on previous literature, and highlight the strengths and limitations of the study. State whether the results prove or disprove the hypothesis. And even if your hypothesis is disproved, you can again give what might be the reasons, or what can be done, what could have been done. Introduce also new and expanded ways to think about the research question. Indicate what next steps can be done. So these are your do's. In don'ts, don't rewrite your abstract, or don't just copy paste. We've gone through what plagiarism is, so rewriting should be avoided as much as possible. Don't include new arguments or evidence not previously discussed. We are just summarizing everything is the end of your research work. And necessary information and evidence should be introduced in the main body in either the introduction or the review of literature. And don't apologize, even if your research contains limitations. You can just give a statement about these are the limitations without actual apologies. And see, limitations and negative results should not dishearten you. Writing it will give again a clear understanding of whatever the research are, and biases should be mentioned, introduced. Threats to internal or external validities also should be mentioned. This definitely makes your research better. And again, like I've told you in the beginning, don't overstate the importance of your findings. Just whatever findings are there should be stated in a very crisp and clear manner. Making grand statements about how a study will resolve large questions should not be done. So don't be very over ambitious in telling about your results. So now an example about my own research which I had done and which was published in the Industrial Psychiatry Journal. So this research was a community-based study of prevalence and functional status of major depressive disorder in an industrial area. So this was the title of the study, and after the title, abstract is given. So abstract is just a small summary of whatever we are going to have. But in this, the important thing is the keywords. Because see, nowadays nobody reads articles based on the papers, or nobody goes through each and every journal. Most of the people will Google the search words, whatever they want, and then whatever results come, they'll go through this. So if you want your study to be seen a lot, and to be cited again by other people, it is better that you include as many keywords as possible. And now, don't just put any keywords so that your again research increases. Make keywords which are valid to the research, but will also help your research in coming up, especially in searches. So, in this, the keyword was community-based study, depression, epidemiology, prevalence, because that was what was studied here. So this is an example of the introduction. So see, the introduction started with whatever was known. So what is the incidence and prevalence in other countries, what was found. And previous literature had said that mental illnesses was a public health issue, and it was very prevalent, so studying this was important. And this is what constitutes your introduction about why your research is important, or why you're doing this. So in this, because it's very prevalent, it causes a lot of public health problems, so this is why the research was done. And then again, I haven't included the whole of it, just a few parts. So if you go to the second on the right hand side, because we were studying depression, then something about depression, that it affects a lot of people, and there's a lot of suffering, a lot of functional problems occurring due to depression. And that is why the aim of the study was evaluate the presence of depression in an industrial area. So you have just stated that why you're doing this, and what is the actual aim of the study, or what is expected from the study. Then methodology is clearly is very simple. There's no confusion. You just, whatever your steps are there, you're supposed to put in your methodology. Results are also very easy. Whatever results you get, you should usually put in a tabular form. So make good tables, and you can put it in paragraph forms also. But a few tables are expected from your research. So this is what we had found, and these were the findings. Now coming to the discussion. So see, now what do we do with all these findings, or all this information that you have? How do you put it in a very concise, crisp manner? So start with whatever the findings are. So study included individuals with this age group. We are just going through the socio-demographic data. So we found that this was the age group, and then we compared it to previous study. So in previous study also, this was the age group in which depression was found. Then coming to the gender. So this study group contained females which were almost double compared to males. And this is what previous literature also says, that depression is higher in females. So you can just state that yes, whatever our findings were consistent with previous researches. So again, I skipped through a lot, but then when we are discussing the results, especially the analysis which was put, so we had used Mann-Whitney U test for analysis. It was, and mention the table so that it is easier for people to go back and look at it. And then the variables which were studied, so GHQ, FSQ, and MMSE. And then just what was expected and what was found. So thus from these findings we establish that the subjects suffering from depression are functionally at a disadvantage. So we had started in our introduction saying that depression might lead to a lot of functional disadvantages, or might lead to a lot of problems. And from your GHQ, FSQ, and MMSE scores, you were able to establish that yes, it did lead to a lot of functional disadvantages. So this is how you summarize, and this is how you interpret and put the results in such a way that it shows the importance of your study and the implications of your study, especially clinically. Okay, again, then I've skipped through a lot of it, but what I wanted to teach you in this particular slide is uh, the comparison with previous studies. So, studies have indicated that depression and neurological disorders also share a link. So, there were two studies in which this was found, and again, I had not copy pasted from the whole thing. You have to read 20 and 21, whatever studies are there in this 20 and 21. Go through these, whatever they have found. Just see the findings and then interpret on your own, and then write it in your own language. This is what is, and if you feel that a lot of studies are there with similar findings, it is always better to club these studies together, club their conclusion together, and write it uh, uh, in along with each other, so that there are not a lot of lines saying the same thing. And then again, next line, this makes screening for patients and presence of comorbid important. So now we are going to the clinical implications, that why is this important or what can be done. So what can be done is written here, that we should screen patients, especially neurological, because there's a two-way street between the two. So any neurological patients coming should also be screened. So this, you are giving a advice, or you're giving something which can be done in future by other people. And again, you're using evidence to support these statements. Again, when you want to just finish it, or you want to summarize it, just go through the last line. So using the right kind of scales is important to understand again the gravity of psychological morbidity, so that early diagnosis and treatment can be done. Because this was a descriptive study, we were just studying about the prevalence and the impact that it has. So what we have showed, that yes, there is a lot of prevalence and it has a lot of functional impact also. So that is why early diagnosis and treatment is important. So this was the interpretation. So this is how you're supposed to mention it. Then comes your conclusion. So again, you don't understand what to write in conclusion, because we've already written everything in discussion. So conclusion, again, just summarize that what were the results, and what did you find, and what are the future implications. So in very, very short, conclusions are usually just one paragraph. Discussions are longer, introduction is longer, but conclusion should be very, very short, just a few lines, maximum a paragraph. Then financial support, conflict of interest, if it is there, it is always better to mention it. And after this will come your references. So this is how you write a introduction and discussion. Review of literature will be discussed more in details by sir, and we can give examples, and when we'll be taking questions at that time also we can just discuss it. But this is just an overview about what is to be done. So thank you so much for listening. I conclude my lecture with this, but we'll be continuing the discussion.